So I, the main meaning I found for the parable of the rich fool, it's sort of about a relationship with money and how it can impact on our relationship with God. I think it's a pretty straightforward parable compared to some of the others that we've talked about. So, yeah, I think it comes across to mean that if we fixate on accumulating wealth without regard for God and others, that, yeah, ultimately we have to answer for our greed. And I think that's what the parable sort of talks about, is greed, about with excessive money, not to confuse like having money that, to meet your basic needs and to survive, because like God wouldn't expect us to live in poverty, but his will is for us to trust to ensure that we'll always have enough. So it begins with the young man. Then one from the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." So I think just before this, Jesus was talking about some really heavy, difficult things. People understand about fearing God, who can throw you in hell, and like blaspheming against the Holy Spirit. So this man, he clearly wasn't listening, probably because this inheritance problem was a really big deal for him at that time, and it must have been really bothering him. So he felt that he needed to bring it up. In Jesus' time, the inheritance, which was usually land and cattle, got divided among the sons. So the oldest son usually got a double portion of the rest of the brothers. So if there were like 3 sons, the oldest would get 50% and the other 2 brothers would get 25%. So it looks like this son probably wasn't the oldest son, and perhaps he didn't receive his fair share of the inheritance. So his brother could have been keeping it all. We don't know. Whatever the situation, he just didn't feel that his share was fair. So I think it comes up that it's more saying that, talking about covetousness, which is an unlawful desire of the property of another, also a desire of gain or riches beyond what is necessary for our wants. And then it sort of can link this into the 10th commandment and a desire of gain or riches being equated with idolatry, because some people think of idolatry as being, idols, other religious things, but it can also be idolizing money and wealth and property and different things in our life. So, that covetousness can manifest itself in a lack of gratitude and generosity. So, again, I think we've talked about this. There's nothing inherently wrong with being wealthy or seeking to increase your prosperity, but it's more when we make rich as our chief end and we're never satisfied and just wanting to acquire more. So in this parable too, the rich fool, he didn't stop to thank the Lord for his prosperity. So he seemed, dissatisfied. He wanted to get bigger and bigger barns. So he wanted to, acquire more. He was also prizing self-sufficiency instead of a life dependent on God. And he didn't seek to help the poor. And he also showed that he didn't have trust in the Lord, that the Lord would provide for him. I was going off onto the parable, sorry. When the brother from the crowd asked Jesus to tell his brother to divide the inheritance, Jesus replied, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" So really we know that Jesus, he's actually all of those things, he's a judge, a teacher and everything, but he doesn't answer him. He doesn't even talk about inheritance, and instead speaks to this man about greed. So I read somewhere, it said that Jesus, he cares for us, and this is why he's more than a judge or an arbitrator, that he's the Lord of things and he's holistic healer, and he wants to heal us from the inside out. He doesn't want to be like a law enforcer. He wants to be a healer of our souls. So yeah, he says to the man instead, watch out, be on your guard against all kind of greed. So he's saying like all kinds of greed. So yeah, for in this stance, it would be that Jesus looks at the man with the inheritance problem. He sees that the bad thing of the inheritance is deceiving the man, and it's lying to him. It's the power of greed. Yeah, and again, I think I mentioned about greed being like idolatry, meaning it's something other than God that takes supreme value in our life. And I look at this even in how I don't know how other people find it, but even how we live in our day-to-day, like working 9 to 5. Because we do need money to meet our needs and things, but just that in our society we're caught up, if you have to work 5 days a week, 9 to 5 or other hours or shifts or whatever, that it takes away from everything else in our life. I don't know if others feel that way, like the hours that you work, sometimes you don't even have, it's not just even having the money, it's not having the time to spend with family or to spend on things. Has anyone got anything to say so far or no?
Well, I was going to say, so you're making a point of if I'm saying this right, idolatry. What's
I,
how do you pronounce it? Idolatry, I think it
I
is.
don't, idolatry?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and on obviously the way I've always seen the Bible is, it tells stories and parables of the time it was written,
Yeah.
and it causes the necessity to pause and go, well, what does that look like today? And I see the point you're making, right? Like for example, if we're talking about property, for example,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we could look at is that Australia faces a property ownership crisis when it comes to younger generations, and just in addition to just a nationwide rental crisis.
Yes. Yeah.
So some people who may obtain property may then, really just idolize the fact that they own that, and
Yes. Yeah.
not have that empathy or sympathy really with other people. And it's not to say, you should sell up or anything like that, but you're not being grateful toward you're not being grateful for your own privileges and your own wealth. Like you're not thanking God for being in much better circumstances, because I mean we all live in a world that's not perfect, right? I mean that's traced back to the story with Adam and Eve. And so there's that acknowledgement that we could definitely have harder trials in our mortal lives. And the fact that some people have been given, let's say a win, it should probably prompt them to say, I mean, obviously, if they have God in their heart, turn around and just pray and say, you know what, God, you really looked out for me on this one. Thank you so much. And then I'm just obviously using that one example, right? Because idolatry can be in the form of celebrities, right? It can just be in your
Yeah.
hobby or something, and it gets to this point where it obviously takes control of
Yeah.
all aspects of your life. Nothing else matters. Your family doesn't matter, let alone religion, and
Yeah.
your community doesn't matter. And you're willing to basically throw all of that out, the baby in the bathwater, wholesale, because you care about that one thing.
Yeah.
And spiritually, I guess Jesus is really saying that spiritually, that's just being poor. Like that, you may be rich physically, but spiritually, you're poor. That's not going to get you to that afterlife. That's not going to enrich your relationship
Yeah.
with God. There's my rant.
Yeah. And I think what I think of as well is even like the rich man not acknowledging God for that gift of, him having the right weather and everything to, grow all those crops and all that, that it's something that, I'm getting my mind around, is everything in this world doesn't really belong to me, even if I own it. It's not really mine. It's just of
Doesn't
this
go with you
world.
when you die.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to detach. Sorry?
It doesn't, it doesn't, it doesn't go with
Yeah.
you
It's
when
not really
you
mine. Like,
cross that plane. Look at the
yeah.
Egyptians, right? The pharaohs, and they get buried with their wives literally
Yes.
and all their
Yeah.
worldly possessions. It doesn't go with them in the
No.
afterlife. Yeah.
No. So trying to get that sort of, detachment to things and just, yeah, whatever I have, it's a gift here, whatever you get.
Yeah, it's definitely a warning against getting too comfortable when things are going good, I guess.
Yeah, that you never know. And too, that's something I try to think of every day. You never know when you're going to die. Like, you know, I could die tonight. You know, I always try to keep that in mind. And that was someone that I work with always says that whenever they're having a conversation with a family member or if they're talking to anyone, they always think, what if this was the last conversation I ever had with them? Like, would you want to speak that way with them, or would you? Yeah, and I just thought of that. Not really related, but yeah.
Relevant. I mean, that could leave you pretty unfulfilled, couldn't it?
Yeah, I think we just, yeah.
Well, it's a good thing to look at it, thinking it's the last day, meaning you'll do good, thinking, you know, if it's your last day, your soul is to a certain degree, you know, okay. Otherwise, if you think you're going to live forever and just, there's plenty of time to confess my sins, you know, that's it. That's not a good thing as well.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, you've got it right, Gordon. I think that's what brings me into mind to think, to be, be the best I can now in this moment every time when I interact with people, because I never know. Yeah.
Otherwise, as the other gentleman mentioned, you know, the world is run by, I call them satanic people, you know, and they're there to destroy our spiritual life, making life hard, making life difficult, and, you know.
Yeah, there's so many distractions and
things that, you know, distract and misdirect you from the path of righteousness, right? From the Lord's path. I'm trying to recall correctly last Sunday, because obviously I'm an English speaker and I tune in when my uncle starts talking English. And I think there was a point in his service where he made the point that, you know, God is that sustaining source in your life. If you believe in God and if you place God on that higher priority of things in your life and you enrich that relationship, then really that's true wealth, and I mean spiritual wealth, right? And you and you should by that virtue have everything you need. So, you know, when you look at the things that distract you from that religious path, then you know, you're making yourself spiritually poor, and that's something that you should stop and reconsider. I mean, I've had those moments too. I mean, we all have, right? None of us are perfect, but
I've got the moments with my mobile phone that I can just get on that and be stuck for ages. I still struggle with that. So when he starts speaking about the parable, Jesus says, the ground of a certain man yielded plentifully. So I think maybe if I've mentioned this before, like in the Bible, there's certain people that Jesus doesn't give a name to in parables. And sometimes I think they are maybe some of the great sinners. They don't have a name, such as also the rich man and Lazarus.
There's a similar one. I don't know if this was a parable. This was a story in the Bible when I was in school. But there was two men that walked into a church, or I guess temple, because you know it was Judaism back in the day, and one was rich, and he said and he started praying, and he goes, you know, thank you God for my wealth, thank you God for my successes, and thank you that I can pretty much run successful businesses in society and do all that kind of stuff and prosper continuously. But the poor man walks into the temple and he starts praying, and he was actually saying sorry. You know, he was just saying, just have mercy on me. I don't have much. Words to the effect, I don't have much to offer. And I think, I got to do the research, obviously, but I think Jesus was making a point that person, he just valued what that person had to contribute in his time more than the rich guy did. So, Yeah, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's the Lazarus one, but yeah.
There's something similar I think we've talked about before with the old lady that didn't have much money, but she went and just whatever she gave, but that had more value than, say, a rich person giving something of theirs because, she gave from what little she had.
Yeah, that's probably the message, really,
Something like
right?
that.
Like, if you're going to contribute something, right, what's the value of that contribution? That's like Elon Musk saying, "All right, I'm going to
Yeah.
donate $20 to the Smith family." That's not even a percent of his wealth, you know. Yeah, and is that an altruistic value? Are you doing that because that's morally the right thing, or are you just
Yeah.
kind of, I guess, taking the piss? Yeah.
Okay. So then when we're back with the parable, we're up to verse 16. The ground of a rich man yielded an abundant harvest. And he thought to himself, what shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will store all my crops and all my goods. So this man's very much focused on, his my mentality, as in like my crops and my goods. And he doesn't even consider, I think I mentioned before, from whom he's received these gifts. He's ignorant to the offerings of God. And if he had, he might have treated these things as if he was a steward of God. But he's a fool, really, because he's thinking that these things were the fruits of his own labours. By calling them, my crops, my goods, I'm the sole owner. He thinks there's no one else entitled to a share. These things are not God's, but mine. Therefore, I alone will enjoy them. So I was going to say something. I can't see faces, so I don't know if anyone's saying anything.
Oh, sorry, I don't have a camera.
Okay, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a camera. I'm just always like doing something. I'm cooking at the moment. My lunch for tomorrow.
Well, I'm on the phone, so I can only see people when they're talking to me. So I haven't seen anyone yet because you're the one with the camera. Oh, there we go. Hello.
Look, I mean, sometimes I'm doing stuff too.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a semi-unrelated but kind of related, just like what we're talking about, like giving and everything. Like, I think one part of like being Christian that I'm like struggling with at the moment, or like I have a desire to kind of like give a bit more, like give a bit back more to the community, and I'm really struggling to kind of like find meaningful opportunities or like where I could donate and like that make a difference and everything. So if anyone has any,
is there something that you connect with or something that draws you? Any areas of people that may have need? Like even sometimes I think like my daughter likes older people, so I said, well, we can go to an aged care home and just visit there, and that because some people that don't have anyone to even visit them or sit with them.
Yeah.
Are you thinking things like that, or I don't?
Yeah, kind of. I was looking into, I've just been looking into different like volunteer things, and maybe like Oz Harvest because like I feel kind of like sympathy and like passionate towards like homeless people or like just people who aren't as well off, and then that also like I'm passionate about the environment, so obviously that redirects food waste.
Yeah.
And it gives people like food that actually has nutritional value. So I was looking into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, if anyone else has any suggestions.
Anyone else?
Anything else that they do?
Before I had joined the Navy, I was a volunteer in the State Emergency Service. So
yes,
so sometimes that appealed to me because whether there's like a bushfire or a large flood event, it didn't really matter specifically what I did. It was just working as a team towards a greater goal of, I guess, relieving someone in their worst circumstance. So especially when it, like, for example, with the elderly, right? One of the things that SES do a lot is a missing persons search, and people of age, they develop dementia and everything, and it's not uncommon for someone who's 80-something years old to just go wander into the forest and be missing for 3 days. It's pretty stressful for the families involved, And so, you're taking time out of your day and you're getting together with everyone else doing the same thing, just genuinely caring for this person and just trying to find them. Or it could just be like, a young kid wandered off and all that kind of stuff. Like that's an example of some of the things I got to do. And then, did it on a more professional basis later, as I could dedicate more time to it. So I started working part-time for fire and rescue. And then, I mean, that's a bit of a life story spiel, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my volunteer work came when I was just finishing up high school and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I worked for the EPA, Environment Protection Authority, so I feel like pretty fulfilled in that sense at work in terms of like public service and like incident response. But like I do get some satisfaction out of that, but I am getting paid for that, so like.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad thing, and that doesn't write it off, right? The fact that you get paid for something, what's the reasons of why you chose that vocation, right? Like someone could get into business or investing and they're just, thinking money, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, someone might want to be a vet because they genuinely care about the welfare of animals, or they want to be a doctor for that reason, or someone wants to work for the EPA because they care for the environment.
Yeah. Yes.
Like some of the reasons I joined Navy was because obviously I liked helping people and I wanted to continue doing that on a more widespread basis because the Navy itself is engaged in a lot of humanitarian operations and stuff, and over the years you would have probably seen, especially during the 2019 bushfires, floods, COVID, it's burnt out a lot of members, but you could see that they've been out and about also assisting in that. And the difference between, say, back when I was doing it for SES, I could afford a day here or there in my time. We still have to pay our cost of living, right? We still need to get a roof over our heads to keep functioning for the next day. So I guess when you're in these kind of more altruistic roles, right, be it the EPA and whatnot, the fact that you get paid for that is a positive one because it just means that you get to dedicate more of your time, right? If you're doing that on a full-time basis, that's 40 hours a week at least, right? That you're putting towards a common goal to improve the lives of others. That's an awesome thing.
When you say Navy, when you say you work for you did for the Navy, but do you know that working for the Navy, you don't work for doing good deeds anyway. You work for corporations, for BlackRock, Vanguard, the same corporations that bring harm to the world. So in one way, you're thinking you're doing a good deed, but that good deed, the evil side is, is going a bit political now.
It is political. Yeah, no, there's no way to
Navy's war.
I mean, to some people, yeah, absolutely, right? I mean, it is still a military organization, and some people will still absolutely see it as the pointy end of the government, right? So that's true.
This is Irene. I just want to give a little bit different perspective. Look, I come from that business banking, evil as you call it side, right? Before, that was 5 years ago. Started with Goldman, JP Morgan, all the creme brulee as you call it. But what had actually sent me to work there was I was born in Russia. There was a lot of corruption, so I wanted to do the part that Alexis is saying, and also it's anti-money laundering, anti-corruption. So a lot of banks have a lot of great people, and going to business doesn't mean that the person cares about money. What does happen, and it happened to me, the higher you go, the more you pay, you expect more, and that's how you fall. But there's a lot of wonderful people who care. A lot of banking organizations and business organizations, they dedicate minimum 2 days paid fully for the employees to go and support any causes that they want. And there's a matching programs, like if you want to support, Red Crosses or different countries or so forth. So there's a lot of beauty in that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
As said, there's you have to have financial means to do the good as well sometimes. And that's where God, when He give you 5 talents, He expects of you more. When you give you 1 talent, He expects of you less. But, we can't just blanketly apply why, that used to be, this is the industry where I go to EPA or I go to military. People do different things for different reasons. What drives your heart, that what matters. And after 2020, I went to teaching, right? Specifically searching what is this my life meant and where can I help? So that's still kind of shaping up, but again, we can't, put our head on, and that's gardenia. That's how you call it in English. That's pride. Like saying something like that could be prideful as well.
100% agree with that too. Because
that's what you did, but I'm just saying to be cautious not to do.
Yeah, I mean, like what you demonstrated there too is because obviously, like, I probably use my example in a very narrow aspect, and there's two sides of the coin, right? Like Gregory was just saying the same stuff. Like there's the other side of the military that's probably a little bit more sad and a bit more depressing, right? And so I suppose you got to have that self-reflection and go, well, where do you fit in all of that, right? The good and the bad. And I mean, yeah, there's obviously good in everything. There's good in a lot of things, right? Yeah. But
I reckon the most important thing is first get spiritual. Go to church on a regular basis, prayer, read the scriptures, and through that, God will open everything to hit the right path. Because without church, without prayer, without fast or love, and just working for corporations, I mean, I don't know if that's the main goal. I mean, it's good to help. I'm saying first, the main priority is church, prayer, thank the Lord, family, friends, the basics, and then, go, when you're strong in that section, then proceed in the other sections of helping the needs or whatever's needed.
Put your Lord first, and everything else will fall in place. That's what God said, right? And everybody put in that place specifically for that place, just to serve certain purpose, and we just need to serve it with the best heart possible.
Yeah.
Because look, I don't want to be cheeky, or some people get offended what I said. It's different. I mean, see, some people find time to come to Bible studies, but the most important thing is some people don't find time for church. I mean, some maybe can't make it, but I'm trying to say, like, the main priority is prayer, church. Like how they say we can go to school, we can go to work, we for things that we need, we'll find time. But when it comes to the Lord, we usually have no time for the Lord.
Is that judging from you, or is that
because people are saying?
Look,
people are saying that they can go work for charity, but they haven't got willpower to come say hello to the Lord. So that's not judging.
How do you know? You don't know.
Everything's judging. If we come to be
is it our place to judge?
I'm not judging. Everybody knows for themselves.
I'm just saying.
Does anyone else want to share their
this went a bit too political. From parables to political, bit war, navies.
No, we're just talking about work and how, in your work you can also do good.
I think it's more about just how God can influence your own actions, right, and what your own objectives are in life. And I see what Julia's saying there. Yeah, I
can share my experience because I think I grew up and had very severe episodes of mental illness, and now my work, and God had a big play in that, in my recovery and everything, and my work is now supporting those that have lived experience. So that does line up with what I felt, is my not calling, or is through my work, which I get paid as well. I don't get paid very well, but anyway, I get to do something that that I sort of feel I was led to do. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this parable about the guy laying up his crops and stuff and just having a good time, that kind of relates to what we're talking about as far as people with a lot of money, I guess what Garan was saying about people high up can be evil, or rich people can be evil. But I guess they would be the people who are sort of storing the money up themselves and not not using the money for something, if that makes sense. I don't know if that added anything.
So instead of being self-interested and just, okay, I'm just going to accumulate more wealth and more wealth, and how am I going to protect my wealth, and how am I going to keep on growing my wealth?
And they don't have a
because how much would be enough? What would you say is enough if someone was wanting to grow their wealth? Like, it's enough that you've got a house over, food, clothing, things like that. Like,
and I reckon it's probably mostly from fear, like they don't trust in God, so they trust in money, and that's going to keep them alive. That's going to do everything for them because they have money.
But why? It's ridiculous to think that, isn't it? Because money's it's not going to keep you here.
But doesn't the evil force give us all these temptations? Because if the evil one didn't exist, we'll be angels. There'll be no sinful thoughts, no desires to do harm. We'll be all loving, we'll fear God, and we'll do is the whole world will be beautiful. But because Satan is on this earth and his job is to deceive every human being possible so we can all head for hell, and he will do anything to deceive us to think that, life, parties, women, drugs, cars, wealth, power, high positions, governments, corporations, you'll be in this position, you do my will, yes, my family's going to be secure, and we lose touch with, with God, and people have lost the fear of the Lord.
And the place we need to start is within, right? Because a lot of Holy Fathers say, start with your own passion. Don't look at your brother's, little thing in the eye when you have your own tree stuck in yours. I'm talking about myself, right? We all, especially during a Lent, it's very important to look within and see what are the passions, what are the we're talking about cars and luxuries, and so, like, just to be clear, I have 600,000 mortgage. My husband pays for everything. So right now, as I'm transitioning for career, so I'm not in those shoes. I used to be, but again, it's when you are given, are you sharing that with others? It's that concept, again, going back to the poor and rich. Like, are you just preserving to yourself, or is it, you are given to pass it on? So there should be a balance of that, right? There's no evil in something that's given for the means, as long as it's used as a means to and not the goal, right? So you're not getting attached to it. You're using it as a means to support yourself, to pay for the roof above your head, to pay for your kids to go to school, clothe them, feed them, and so forth. It's all cleansed by God. It's all given by God. It's all good means. But as long as you're putting the gold on the pedestal and then looking at this money and hiding the money and touching it and actually making it your goal and aim, they will burn. It will be taken from you, and so forth. So it's just Holy Fathers have a lot of good things on the Pisces Vitagorets, and I'm not gonna call right now, but I can tell you, I can give you a couple of the very good YouTube videos, how to handle money with a Christian mindset.
Another thing I wanted to
say, it's not all that evil. It's our perception of it could be evil. So we need to always look within.
I was wanted to say, like Julia said, we all work, as we all know, the high power is intentionally doing this to destroy us from God, make life more expensive. Husband and wife has to go to work because they can't afford it. The government looks after the children, and then we fall apart. There's no time for God. There's no time for nothing. And it's they've set everything up. Even if you look up history, on Sunday, no business used to never work.
Yeah.
If you look at
that was my experience.
Open business Sunday, more money.
When I grew up, when I was young, all the shops, everything was closed on a Sunday. No one worked.
It's called inflation and free money printing. Free money printing causes inflation.
Capitalism is working exactly as designed.
It doesn't make sense. Like, we have children, and then you've got to work to support your family, and the children have to some children go into daycare to be looked after because the families have to work, and it's just the way that the world is.
But that's
it's
designed
not good, and
by
it's hard to step outside of that as well.
That's designed by the globalist elite who don't worship God. They want to destroy the family structure. I mean, the church fathers, you've mentioned the church fathers. The church fathers talk about what will happen.
I think Father is not here. I think we need to stick to the Bible instead of going into the debris.
Yeah.
Thank you, Irina. You're bringing us back.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. So, hang on, what are we? So do we? What shall I do since I've no ring? Oh yeah. So yeah. So yeah, he didn't think, like, when he decided that he'll pull down the barns and build greater. He didn't think of what else he could do, like with the excess crop. Like, he could have given that to the poor people or whatever. So he didn't, and just kept what he could in his barns and done other things with the surplus crop that he had. And also that his focus that he'll have many years, like, because he says, and I say to my soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, drink, and be merry. So yeah, that's his mindset is focused on life, which is temporary. And yeah, that is sort of a sense when he's saying that he feels like he's all set up, he's invincible, that's, he's all set up to live and enjoy his life. And I think too, we see that in our society where people work, and then, I'm going to retire, and then I'm going to do this and this, I'm going to travel, I'm going to do everything, whatever other things that they want to do. I'm going to spend, time with these people, whatever, but not making time, because again, we don't know when we're going to die. So
this parable based on a true event or just a story?
No, it's a parable. So he's no, it's not a true event. He's just
So who is this? Who does he represent? Like, which, we always talk, each individual represents Jesus, God, or so this rich man represents
potentially people who are like who can easily become greedy.
And I'm saying, there's, he makes the grains, and then God takes his life away. Says, look, you're not gonna succeed with what you plan when when I'm the life giver and I'm the life taker. Like,
I think it sort of shows that it's not what is in this world isn't what really matters. Like, to focus our attention and our time and our energy.
Yes.
Can I just add
please do.
Just an additional thought separate to kind of the money thing. I'm kind of just painfully aware of the other areas of the Bible, continuously talking about being more like Jesus, and in our lives that this is an active life of seeking virtuous behaviors, like righteous behaviors. And so this man has an opportunity to display righteous behaviors or sinful ones, right? So he's been given this crop, and he's got this opportunity to either be like Jesus and be compassionate and giving and whatever with that. But instead he chooses not just greed, but also this kind of slothful life. It's like, now I will stop living. Yeah. Now I will stop. I have no need for an existence. I have no need for my humanness anymore. And it was interesting, Julia, when you mentioned people who go into retirement. I mean, I don't know about anyone else's personal experiences, but what I've noticed in particular is people who've had a very kind of purposeful career, like where they've really kind of dedicated themselves within that, whether that's in construction or in sustainability or whatever it is. When they stop a career like that, and when in their mind, now I'm going to sit and be quote unquote merry or whatever, time and time again, what I notice is they tend to die a lot sooner.
rather than people who maintain their involvement, whether that's, again, whether it's spirituality, whether that's through attending church or through maintaining those kind of virtuous behaviors and being connected with life, that it's not just about, life is not a means to an end, it's an ongoing journey. So like all of those virtues are these things that we're repeatedly doing. You don't get to a point where you're like, yes, I succeeded. Yes. Whether that's a virtue or an amount of money, there's no end point to that. It's how, as you've said before, it's like, how do I turn up today and how will I turn up tomorrow and again and again and again? And I know you were asking about, Anya was asking about like volunteering, and I'm like, yeah, like you can pick any volunteering. You can make it an intentional thing where like, yeah, every Saturday I'm going to go help the homeless people. But it's the question of, how can I be a giving person in any given moment? How can I see those opportunities in my every single day? Is there someone in my workplace who may benefit from some guidance or some mentoring or a kind hug or some space or some
a kind word?
Like, a kind word, right? So it's like, what is everything that I can turn up as in any single moment? So we don't have to have these formalized volunteering processes. I know so many people think about that. And that's beautiful. Yes, do it. It's not don't do it. but it's about that we have these opportunities all the time. And just like when they talk about, open your eyes and you will see miracles everywhere. It's like open your eyes and you'll see these opportunities everywhere. If again, like that, living the life.
It's beautifully summarized. Yes, very good summarized.
Yeah. So that's the way I sort of like, I think, whether it's money or not, it's the fact he stops living life. He saw it as this means to an end. Yeah. And didn't take that opportunity to create that into being like Jesus,
Yeah. And also not focusing on the money, like that we can be generous with our time, our words, love and relationships and other things besides. Yeah. I don't know where I got it.
Well, you ultimately picked the right subject. It created a lot of good discussion.
And then we've got, God's response to him when he said, "For all this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will those things be which you have provided?" What do people think about Jesus saying that God would say, "This night your soul will be required of you"? What?
Like you said,
like
our life can be
you?
Maybe like you said, God can take our soul whenever he chooses and pleases.
Yeah.
If we choose to be like gods ourselves, because we tend to think we're gods ourselves, we're going to live another 50 years, 100 years. And like you all said, we plan beforehand and then realize, tomorrow can end and God can, and we're not grateful to the Lord's gift of life.
Yeah, I was just looking at the wording in the Katana app, and the rewording in this one is, "This very night your life will be demanded from you." So basically, this is your last day, then what have you created? Right, this is I think coming again back to that, if these would be the actions you were judged upon, you grew this crop and you chose greed and slothfulness and a choice to not actually engage in life. So I will take your life. What are you going to do with everything you do?
That's like Jesus says to us, that to be ready every day, to be ready, because So when we leave this earth, we got good deeds on our side, and instead of nothing, with sinful soul. Like when he talks about the final hour could be any time. So every day we should give love to everybody, hug our brothers and sisters and help the need and do God's will, so we have a chance.
Okay, and I think the last line, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich toward God. What do people think is being rich toward God? What does that look like?
Merciful to others and being as Christ, or trying to. be as Christ.
Anyone else?
You're talking about wealth or being rich with good deeds? Like using
No.
wealth as good or doing good
Well, you
deeds?
could be using, the wealth as good.
Oh, like he's
But,
even Branko says, help the need, help churches. Like the old. I mean, if we look in the old books of Orthodoxy, a lot of kings and rich people built monasteries and churches and helped the need and built hospitals. Like, yeah, I mean, use the wealth for the good of man and for God.
So if you're giving, that's the main principle.
Like I mean, the most important thing is, I don't know if people mention it, everything that we do, we should say, I do this for the Lord, not I do this for Goran or Gregory or to impress my friend or my whatever. It should be all done for God. Anything that is done good should be in the name of the Lord, and not for our fame or our glory or to get compliments from people. Because today we tend to seek compliments because everybody's recording themselves when they give. As you can see, it's all over social media. Yeah, I gave $50, I gave 1,000. The Lord says, don't need to tell no one. I saw, and I'll reward you secretly.
I think we talked about that as well. That you don't announce what you're doing, because it is God will acknowledge you. Otherwise, I think Father Uncle said something like, if you're saying, I did this and this, that you're already getting
you'll get your reward on this
or something. But
I think all these things could be applied to not just money, but also glory and all these other things as well.
Sorry, what other things, Gregory?
Like self-glory or like anything that's not God.
And then he didn't want to work no more, as God doesn't like laziness. He wants us to work to the end, like to be active, to work. And he wanted to be lazy. He wanted to just sit back like FND and eat and drink and enjoy life.
So like single, like he's got all the riches now. He's like, no, it's like all my precious. I'm not gonna don't need to work or anything. But if he's not if he was continually, working, he would be able to actually give. He could have just went, what, I have enough to survive and live comfortably. But why don't I just, keep living and use what I have, newly acquired and give that out, and that will be in I don't know, in the name of God. And I think if he actually done that, I think he would be in a better, I guess, Smeagol.
He seems very isolated as well. There's no one around him. Even when he's talking about what he's going to do with all this, he's sort of just talking to himself about, what am I going to do? What should I do? Oh, I'm going to do this and this and this.
I think that goes back to that last paragraph. What does it say? Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? So it's because he was so self-centered and it's always me. There's nothing for him to give. There's nothing for him to, I don't know where I'm going with this. So if he was actually giving, he would actually have more people around him. So
and he couldn't have done all that on his own either. He's just taking credit for everything he's done. He would have had people working for him as well. I'm sorry, I've been a bit all over the place. I
think, it does relate a lot to isolation as well. It's to be alive is to share and to, to commune.
So do the grains have any meanings, or that's just, again, money and wealth? And
I don't think it's just money or wealth. It's more possession.
I'm saying he got the grains. He was going to build where you're going to put all the grains. Do they have a meaning as well? The grains and the field.
That symbolizes his greed for, you know, wanting more? You know, like,
I think it's pretty straightforward on the surface.
Haven't grains have often been like a metaphor, an analogy of people's faith, like that you've got this capacity to do something with that and grow it. And so he's been given, you know, an abundance of an opportunity to be a good Christian. And rather than resowing that or gifting that or doing anything virtuous with it, he chooses to store it. And so it's talking about, I think, you know, when we talk about can't take anything with you when you go, and that all of your pleasures really await you up in heaven. So if you really had that faith, it would be about, well, the grain is those seeds. Like, there's been so many parables about like the grain and the seed and where you drop it and where it lands and how it grows.
Josie, where are you? She did, that parable.
So it's like, you know, God provided. It was His will for the rich man, the quote unquote the rich man, to be enriched with this opportunity, to really use that in a meaningful way, both spiritually and virtuously, to help him, you know, go up to heaven where he will be pleased with everything. But there's the lack of faith, and again, like all those sins of the slothfulness and the greed, and you know, pulls him away from any opportunity to do anything meaningful with them.
Okay, anything else, anyone?
No, I agree with Donna as well.
Do you want to add anything, Julia?
Me? No, I don't
Do you want
think
to add
so.
something?
Also, I think we live, like the time that we live in, everything's readily available to us. So we've kind of got all these treasures, these earthly treasures sort of given to us pretty easily. Like having a phone, like you said before, and just being able to watch anything and like, just sit there and watch entertaining videos all day.
Yeah.
It's kind of relates to this. It could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I did all afternoon.
But the same technology can be used for the good deeds. Like, I mean, instead of entertaining, you can actually watch Holy Father's different.
Don't worry,
audio
that's all I watch. That's all that's on my.
That's literally.
So I'm watching good stuff, but I'm stuck there all day.
So it's the intake of information. God is word, right? It's which word you choose. It's your will.
Yeah.
So everything has, as Alex has said, I believe it was two sides of the same coin. Everything has the good side and the bad side, and it's within each and every one of us. Do we choose to be, good, or do we choose evil? That's where the paradise, that's where the war goes, and it's in our hearts.
So we have the free will as well.
But I guess it takes that fear of God to be able to use it for good, rather than just saying you have all this stuff easily available to you. You don't really need to do anything good with it, because it's just, why should you?
Yeah, as they were saying in the last times, the Evangelium will be reaching every single place, and now through technology, it could be reached everywhere. It's the choice of, do you really hear the word that's extended to you?
Yeah.
Who else is here? Say hello, because I want to see on my screen now.
Well, I'm here.
Okay. Yovan, are you there? I'm looking.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Yovan. How are you?
Hey, good yourself.
Good. And Ladan and Crystal, hello? No? That's all I've got on my screen.
Oh, hello. No,
hello.
And Ada's hiding as well.
Yeah.
Did Josephine log in?
Ada, there you are. Ada.
Did Josephine log in? She said she was going to be 5-10 minutes late, man.
She's not Oh, was she waiting to get let in? Maybe.
I wouldn't have a clue.
Greg,
She
how
said
would
she
we
said
know
she was
if
going to
she's
be
waiting?
5 minutes late.
She's not.
No.
Okay. All right. Anything else anyone wants to share?
How about you?
Me?
Yeah. Well, good work
No,
then.
that's it.
Yeah. Thanks for your.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julia. I think it's definitely been thought provoking, and I mean it's true, right? Like there's two sides of the coin, and where do you fit in all of that, right? You know, yeah. Thanks, guys. Well, I'm going to head off too. And yeah, no, interesting debates. I like it.
Well, God
Take care,
bless you
everyone.
all and have a lovely night.
You too,
all.
Gregory.
I'm coming
You too,
on
guys.
Sunday.
Greg,
Good night.
Back to my
Bye.
project.
Night.
Bye.
Good night.
God
Luck
bless.
and light. Good night.
See you guys.
Who's left?
See ya,
Bye.
Julie. Thanks
That
for your
wasn't
great.
live, was it? Don't put it
Yes,
up,
it was.
please.
It's going to be spread all around the
No.
world.
It was. I can get rid of it, but